life is ticking down. It's not what I would choose. I hear your saddened sound of all that you might lose. But before I leave this life, I give this gift to you and hope that you will see the wider view. Will you see the wider view? Paint the way with me. Your canvas won't be quite so blue if you don't let it be. The colors are unknown, but you won't paint alone if you choose to see the wider view.
Again, let me welcome all of you here today as we celebrate the life of the one and only Jeffrey Joe Morin. Before we get started, I have a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, if you have any food or beverages in here, please be very careful with the floor. You'll note it's carpeted. We want to keep the place as clean as we can, as they have donated the space for us. We appreciate that very much. Some thank yous going out, of course, to the Vision Center for Spiritual Living and to Diane Russell for her graciousness. We want to thank Euphoria Brass Band, who's appearing for us today. Also, a big thanks to longtime friend and musician, sound man Joe Rathburn. Susie Hazelton, thank you very much for your help today. Also, Veronica Graciano, Liz Abbott, Mike Bruner, David Barra, and Marcia Clare, thank you very much for helping us. Karina has given me a list of thank yous to share with you as well. Starting off with everyone who came to the hospital after Jeffrey's last incident. People who came and sang and laughed and read and prayed and brought snacks. And we all loved and hugged each other. And a special thank you to those of you who were there to sing Jeffrey home. Karina's big thanks to Rosie for things that are simply immeasurable. To Jeffrey's family for your love and support. Special thanks to dear family friends, John Bosley, to Veronica May, to Nancy Aragon, to Audra Anderson, Donna Duarte, Jeff Berkeley, Liz Abbott, and to Mark Montijo for a tendency to show up at the most opportune time. Thank you, Mark. He tried to warn us. Jeffrey did. Don't get to know me, children. He tried to warn us, but then he made it impossible. Those knowing eyes, sometimes mischievous, sometimes sad, that beaming whole face smile, his deep from the gut laugh, and of course the songs, all the songs. All of that invited you in to tell him more about yourself. And yeah, learn about his big old heart. And that was the thing about Jeffrey Joe. If you met him, you wanted to know him. Something made you feel you needed to know him. And you were destined to know him. And if you did get to know him, then you soon found out that this was a risk worth taking. Never mind what the song said. Loving Jeffrey Joe was a privilege, and being loved by Jeffrey Joe, that's a privilege beyond words. And the only thing more difficult for us to imagine than being without Jeffrey is the idea of never having known him at all. So today we gather and we remember how fortunate we all are to have had this man in our lives. Today we let the love Jeffrey had for each of us, for all of us, to flow freely among us. Sharing stories, sharing music, lifting our spirits as his spirit soars. Today we celebrate. We celebrate a life noted by perseverance, by compassion, curiosity, by humor, growth, wisdom. We celebrate a brother. We celebrate a father, a true friend, a confidant, a mentor, and life partner. And we celebrated the way Jeffrey moved through this world with ferocity and love. And after you leave this celebration today, it is my hope for each of you that the love of this community will stay with you and bring peace to you as we all learn to move through this life without Jeffrey at our side. And I urge you to remember Jeffrey Joe as he touched your heart with words, with music, with laughter, with hugs, with tears, and with truth. Please welcome Mark Montijo.
This is a song that is about transitions and change. Last played in a hospital room a couple of weeks ago. So, also making it appropriate perhaps is there's an old car in it. I went to the highway for reasons. With a box of books and a 57 folder. I don't have to tell you just how hungry I was. Besides, I know you take me at my word. The highway was cold, but I'm forgetful. I left my homes whenever someone cried. But I looked behind the rhythm and the visions of the road, and I cursed whatever made me stay outside. But I get a clear, warm feeling in this canyon, where my footsteps match the wind song like a rhyme. And the sun drips down through the puzzle of leaves into my mind, through my mind. The highway calls out just like a friend now, but I must have changed while dreaming in the night. And I can't explain the difference, but I feel it all the time. And I know that something's gone, but it's all right. I get a clear, warm feeling in this canyon, where my footsteps match the wind song like a rhyme. And the sun drips down through the puzzle of leaves into my mind, to my mind. Jeffrey Joe.
Everybody has a story about Jeffrey Joe, even if you knew him for 50 years or 50 minutes. Somehow he managed to do that. I'd like to welcome Gregory Page to come and tell a story or two for a couple of minutes, share some of his memories of Jeffrey Joe.
What you said was so beautiful. I'd like to get a copy so I can read it every day. It was wonderful. I was thinking of specific stories that Jeffrey and I had experienced and adventures together, and they all kind of blended into one big feeling of just gratitude and how lucky and honored I was. I used to introduce him as my favorite songwriter, and he will always be that for me. We shared the stage together and the friendship together that I just feel so blessed and feel so lucky and so inspired by our time that we had. One night we had started to sing together, and our two shaky voices sounded pretty unbelievable. And afterwards I said, we should do that more, we should sing more. We usually play harmonica. He played harmonica like Artie Shaw, he played harmonica like clarinet. It was amazing. And I loved his guitar playing because it was always full of notes. Even though he didn't know maybe what the notes were called, I knew that it was his masterful guitar playing. Anyway, after this one show, Jeffrey said, we should make a duet album. We should form a duet album. Kind of, I said, like the Everly Brothers? And he said, yeah. Except for we should call ourselves the Elderly Brothers. So we did. And, there are countless shows that we had. And he had the innate ability, depending on the audience. Not all the audiences we played for were listening audiences. We played downtown quite a lot, the Westgate Hotel, and a lot of the audiences were really loud. And he had this beautiful innate ability to turn around my own mood to make it feel like it was fun and it wasn't work. And just one of my other memories of Jeffrey was we would meet at this Vietnamese restaurant quite a lot by his house. He loved pho. And he taught me how to drink this coffee drink. I'd never seen anything like it. It was the strongest coffee. I called him days later and I said, I haven't slept for 3 days. What did you give me? And as he started to tell me about his experience as a younger man in Vietnam, and he had written this song called Down by the Sunny Riverside. And we had a show together at the Stats a few days later, and backstage, I was always trying to encourage Jeffrey, although he knew so many cover songs, and I loved his cover songs, of course. Our love of Lou Curtis and going to that record shop would always teach him a lot of different songs, but it was his original songs that sounded like classic songs that I was always trying to hear more of. So when he was planning his set list backstage, I had asked, are you going to play the new song? He said, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable, I don't know if I will. And I said, man, just keep playing more original songs. Play that one tonight. I didn't know even really, I hadn't heard it. And so he gets up to the mic and he does half of his set, and then he pulls out this little sheet of paper with these new lyrics on it. And he began singing the song about Vietnam. And at the end of the song, he sings this prayer in Vietnamese. And the audience and I were completely holding our breath. We had never heard this. I'd never heard anything so fearless in my life. I thought, my God, this is a fearless, incredible, beautiful moment. And after the song was finished, I could feel a collective gasp and tear out of the audience. And then he played Big Red Lips, and then we all laughed. Amazing ride that he took us on, night after night. I miss him, and even though he doesn't live outside of us, he lives inside of us, so we are all so lucky to have known Jeffrey Joe.
A musical partner and friend, and someone who I would just like to say personally brought a lot of comfort to me that week that we were with Jeffrey. Please welcome John Bosley.
Well, these are my late this morning from gratitudes. Jeffrey used to post regularly gratitudes, and a lot of people have done that from time to time, and I never did. And I knew I wanted to say something today, and I couldn't figure out what to say, and this seemed like the right thing to do. I am grateful for knowing and loving Jeffrey Joe Moran for 15 years. I am grateful for Jeffrey's mother, who played wonderful records and told him to read Camus. I'm grateful for his 3 little sisters and 2 little brothers, who are referred to that way, who, come what may, have stuck together through it all. I'm grateful for Andy, who he loved through a long and sometimes difficult marriage, and without whom he might have spun off into space or fallen through the cracks. I'm grateful for Josh and Rosie, who he loved so much it hurt, and who gave him great joy. I'm grateful for the Golden Goose and Jeanette Anderson's open mic, where I met Jeffrey, and it was love at first sight. I'm grateful for Jack Johnson, without whom there never would have been Joe Bosmo, a trio that lasted about 100 shows and 2 rehearsals. I'm grateful for Sven Erik Sion, Steph Johnson, and Leo Dembecki, and Jeff Berkeley, who recorded Jeffrey's music. I'm grateful for Stout and the Kitchen on Windsong Drive, our chapel and our communion wine. I'm grateful for all Jeffrey's friends, too numerous to name, because friendship was Jeffrey's oxygen. And I'm grateful for Karina Wheatley, who gave him great joy and comfort, and who in the end made everything worthwhile. I'm going to sing a song from Tom Paxton called Rambling. He was a man, a friend always. We rambled round in the hard old days. He never cared if I had no dough. We rambled round in the rain and snow. And here's to you, my rambling boy. May all your rambles bring you joy. And here's to you, old rambling boy. May all your rambles bring you joy. You can all sing on that chorus next time around if you want. In Tulsa town, we chanced to stray. We thought we'd try to work one day, and the boss said he had work for one. My pal said we would rather bum. And here's to you, my rambling boy. May all your rambles bring you joy. And here's to you, old rambling boy. May all your rambles bring you joy. Late one night in a jungle camp, whether it was cold and damp, he got the chills, oh, he got the bad. I lost the only friend I had.
you, old rambling boy. May all your rambles bring you joy. He left me to ramble on. My rambling pal, he's dead and gone. If when we die, go somewhere that you know is rambling there. And here's to you, old rambling boy. May all your rambles bring you joy. And here's to you, my rambling boy. May all your rambles bring you joy.
I feel really lucky to have known Jeffrey Joe. Even though it's only been a few years, really, I stopped to think about it. It seemed like I'd known him my entire life. So I would like to invite some folks who kind of have known him his entire life, or at least their entire lives. Brother Danny Morin, I'd like to come up and share a little bit about your big brother. And John Lillig, if you could come up, we'd like to hear some stories. John worked with Jeffrey at Nexus Biosystems. Come on up, Danny. You bet.
Writing notes that I brought out of Phoenix. I tried to write some stuff down, but it's too much. It got long. My kids, like his timeline for the article they did on Troubadour magazine. He was a unique guy, to say the least. He's 9 years older than me. I didn't really hang out much, but the older we got, the more we hung out together. He came by on the 4th of July with his new hot rod, and I bought this shirt so we could go for a ride. Whew. Yeah, that made it look easy, man. I think Claudia and Mark and John and Gregory, wow, you guys, yeah, they look easy. Whew. It's like two different families here. One we didn't know about. But we knew about it because we heard it every time. Jeffrey plays guitar. Or singing. Music was a big thing in our family growing up. We didn't have a TV when we first came to San Diego. Radio was on all the time. We all can sing a little bit, but I ain't singing for you right now. If you want to call blubber and sing, do that. I can blubber with the best of them. But we're all going to miss him. Like I see him all of you here today. I can hear it whenever I hear music on the radio. The Drifters come to mind. Save the Last Dance for me. That was probably his best cover. And he had a lot of them. He knew more songs than I knew there were songs. And I know a lot of songs. I know a lot of songs. But it's rough, but I felt I had to get up and let you know that his family loved him very much. And that the last part of his life was hard for him. He had been through a lot of surgeries, physical problems, but the music was always there from the very beginning. When I was 7, 8 years old, I remember playing the guitar. And the sound of an acoustic guitar is pretty much the best sound on the face of the earth. I'm going to miss that squeak when he moves his fingers down the frets, excuse me. You can tell I'm a musician. But I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's wonderful that you could all take time out of your day to celebrate my brother's life. So real soon, I'm used to going at our age. He's 9 years older than me, so I'm 61 years old. Sort of going to these things is like commonplace nowadays. It's like, I don't go to church, but this is pretty awesome right here. And I was going to try and sing a song for you, but that ain't going to happen. I listened to a little bit of Delbert McClinton on the way up here. And I'm giving it up for your love every day, John. And I'm going to miss you. Thank you again to everybody. Karina, thank you so much. Because I know Jeffrey had a lot of joy in his life there at the end with Karina. And it probably might have been the happiest he'd been in a long time. And I could stay up here for a long time and just tell you all kinds of cool stuff that my big brother did. And I think you all know that. So I'll cut it off and just say, well, I love you, Jeff. I'll see you soon.
This is an incredible memorial. And I'm going to try to tell you a little bit about a different perspective that we know of Jeffrey, because we worked together with him. We weren't as fortunate to be able to, much less create, but even be able to sing along with him. But we loved him for a lot of reasons that I'm going to try to share a little bit with you on. So, the Elderly Brothers, we've seen some of the gigs around town, and it's really been extremely fun, especially with the people that he would perform with, and his humor and his storytelling that went along with all. By the way, you're looking an awful lot like your brother. It's reminded so much. Oh my gosh. So, but I'm John Lilly, and I actually had the pleasure of being able to work with Jeff for a number of years on the technical side of things. So, but and by the way, thanks very much for the nice words as well. When I walked in, I noticed a phrase, it said something like, God gives some much because some can accept it. And it was a little different than that probably, but it's a phrase that's used here at the Vision Center. And that hit me because of my fondness of Jeffrey. God gave Jeffrey a lot of things, but kind of in the background that he didn't ever talk much about. A lot of medical and physical challenges. I mean, I'm from an engineering company, and when he showed me some of the x-rays of the titanium rods in his back and other things, this was months after we got to know him, we had no idea. I just cannot imagine how anybody could have been given so much and accepted it so incredibly well as he did. And so that's kind of on the spiritual side of things. He had a spiritual streak about him that went so deep. I never heard this Vietnamese song before, but I can only, the fearlessness of somebody to pull that off, I suppose only a rambling person like Jeff would bring everybody joy in that sort of a creation. So Our company is Nexus. We have a number of people here from Nexus Biosystems. We're located now in Poway. And we developed a lot of scientific products and pretty exciting products. We had a very innovative engineering group and a very strong manufacturing group. But quite honestly, we were missing a certain dimension. We didn't really have anybody, and this is why we brought Jeff into the company about 10 years ago. We didn't have anybody that could really take these great ideas and make them fun for scientists to use and easy to use and next generation looking, like the Nexpio, I should say, product that we had in the past. And Jeffrey brought us a third and fourth dimension like that took some of the best ideas in the world from our company and made them into very successful, fun products to use by the scientific community. So we all appreciated that. I won't go into some of the technical detail. He was very, very strong in those regards, and we really learned a lot from him. But he also had a fourth and fifth dimension about him that touched all of us. You could always talk to Jeffrey. He was a great listener. He would always have a couple harmonicas on the side and a guitar in the back of his engineering office. But he would be there. It didn't matter if it was a technical problem you wanted to talk about or a personal problem. He was always there to listen and then tell a few stories. And the stories were unbelievable. His life was just so full of exciting times, and he shared a lot of that with us. And we gained a lot of insight from him, well beyond our technical side. We like to have fun at Nexus as well, so we would always have little parties and things. Usually we would have a good party on Halloween. You know, people would come all dressed up in their costumes and look a little different than the normal day-to-day. We'd have usually a pumpkin contest. So we would go home the night before, we'd carve our pumpkins up and we'd bring them in, we'd all be real proud of what we've done. And then in a very unassuming and humble way, Jeffrey would walk in. He would set his pumpkin on the table. It's almost like pulling the curtain off. And, oh my gosh, what is that? The most incredible pumpkin carving I personally have ever seen in my life. I mean, it was like Halloween spirits coming to life. It had incredible detail carved into it. It looked alive. It looked like it was going to, move off the table. And Jeffrey said, it's just what I do, But that sort of creative element is something that you barely ever see. And we had the real opportunity to, even at work, hear some of his music and then go to gigs around town. With probably a lot of you, I recognize a couple of you from some of those gigs, but I'm sure there's probably a lot more of you either with him doing it or listening. Just incredible, his creative ability in writing songs and writing the music that went with him. Different than what any of us had ever heard. I know a few songs, but you're right. I mean, it's a sixth dimension almost, what he brought me into music. So I just kind of like to leave you with that. We already miss him. His spirit will always be with us in ways that most people never will. I mean, just the heartwarming warmth that he brought to all of us made us all more creative in our own little way. So, thanks, Jeff, and thanks to the family for inviting all of us. I've been through a few of these things with my family, and I was just like you. It's really, really hard, and especially hard with as loving and caring a person as Jeffrey Joe.
If you knew Jeffrey Joe, you knew that his love for his family was the most important thing in his heart. Rosie? And he loved his little girl. Please welcome Rosie to say a few words about her dad.
Karina asked me if I wanted to say anything a couple weeks ago, and I just said yes without thinking about it. And, well, because he was my dad. And I just ended up sitting down about 3 or 4 days ago and just spent a couple hours just writing what I have to say here. And I have lots of stories about my dad. I can't remember what proposition it was, but it was when I was in high school. It was, should California recognize gay marriage or not? And my dad actually chased a guy off the porch because he was trying to get his vote for not having California recognize gay marriage. Actually screamed at him and chased him off the porch. It was great. And for a while, we actually worked at the same aircraft parts company, Styco Industries. And I used to carpool with him, and if you've ever ridden with my dad, he was a terrifying driver, absolutely terrifying. And once he was being tailgated, and he took a brown banana out of his lunch, and he unrolled the sunroof, and he threw it. And it hit the guy's windshield, and it was just one of those, oh my God, moments then, but I treasure it now. He reserved the naming rights for pets. He didn't really like animals that much, but he let me and my mom have our pets. And he reserved the naming rights, which is how we ended up with the cats named Freddie the Freeloader, and Hoagie, after Hoagie Carmichael, and how I ended up with a cockatiel named Ingmar Bergman. I know you all have at least one of that, oh, Jeffrey, sorts of stories, and I'd really love to hear them all. And when Karina did ask me if I wanted to say anything, what I thought of was, wasn't any specific episode of cheekiness or humor, courage, but it was philosophy. During the difficulties of my teenage years, my dad recommended a book called Zen and the Art of Archery. It's a pretty short read by a man named Eugene Herrigel, who was a German who studied Kyudo Zen archery in Japan in the 1920s. And this book ended up changing my life, or my perception of it. In true Zen fashion, it taught me to let go and trust that things would work out if I stopped worrying about them so much. And when I left home for college some years later, he surprised me by telling me that philosophy of that book was also his manual for being a good parent. If the archer hesitated when the bow was drawn, the shaking in his limbs and the worry of hitting his target would break his concentration and make the arrow go astray. And that's what it was with raising my brother and I. It wasn't his place to correct us when we went off course or to fear letting go of us. It was his job to point us in the right direction, see us off with love and with care and with trust, to let go of his own worries and insecurities, and let us fly free. In Kyudo archery, the archer is taught never to worry about hitting the bullseye because the arrow and the target are already one and the same, and one will find the other in time. And he believed that his children were always in possession of everything they ever were and ever could be. That trying to measure and quantify us was meaningless because we were always enough, with a capital E. We were valued just because we were ourselves. He trusted us, he loved us. In my final email conversation, my dad said that he was proud to have managed to raise such sensitive and gentle children, but felt guilty as well because we had to live in such a harsh and uncaring world. But with his presence, the world was a little less harsh. And I don't know if I'll ever figure out what the target of my life is, but thanks to him, I have the wind at my back.
Liz Abbott and Francesca Valle have been working on a song to share with us, and I think it's a really beautiful choice, Liz. So if you ladies could come up and we'll do that.
so much to say.
Hello.
There's so much to say about Jeffrey Joe. Right now, I can't think of a darn thing. But I hope this song, when I first heard this song a couple weeks ago, when Jeffrey Joe was in the hospital, it's just a perfect song for him. It's the most beautiful song about death I've ever heard. This is my friend Francesca. We met in Jeffrey Joe's hospital room and instantly bonded. And I want to thank her for accompanying the song on guitar and singing harmonies, because I haven't picked up a guitar in 20 years and I just can't do it anymore. I guess I need to practice. So do you want to say something, Freddie?
There's a section at the end of this where you'll hear me sing with Liz, I Will Be, because we'll be floating with Jeffrey, right? You'll know it when it comes. I would invite you to sing it. We sing it 4 times. But I would invite you to sing it with us, because that was Jeffrey to the core. I mean, from the minute I met the man. He was all about community music, which is, you know, where it's at. Right? It's like, I love that I'm doing this with you, because Liz and I didn't know each other until... I hope we can have it. Okay.
One last gaze upon the sun, bid farewell to everyone. Kick that bucket out the door. Where I'm going, I won't need it anymore. Gonna lay my burden down, take a bird's eye look around. From the tall pines of Carolina all the way to the wall of China, so I'll go sailing around the room. Through my window, across the silver moon. No flesh and bone to hold me, I'll finally set my soul free when I go sailing round the room. Life may be just but a dream. Float my boat on down the stream, to wake up on a different shore. Wind up as something I ain't never been before. Be a drop of summer rain, Oklahoma plain. Oh, leave the world behind me. Look around and you will find me when I go sailing round the room. Through my window, across the silver moon. No flesh and bone to hold me, I'll finally set my soul free when I go sailing round the room. I will be on the Mauna Loa, morning mist on the Shenandoah. I will be grain of sand in the Kalahara, magnolia by the Mississippi. I will be bird song when the day is breaking, words of love when your heart is aching. I will be blue bonnet on the highway, look around
around and you will find me when I go sailing round the room. Through my window across the silver moon. No flesh and bone to hold me, I'll finally set myself free when I go sailing round the room. Through my window across the silver moon. No flesh and bone to hold me, I'll finally set myself free when I go sailing round the room. Love you,
We talk a lot about love when we talk about Jeffrey Joe. He was the guiding force in his life. From the time he was a little kid, looked up to his dad, the love he had for his mother, the love he found through the years. And Jeffrey Joe was really very fortunate because at the end of his life, he found yet another love, another true love. And believe me, if you can find love with a back as strong as this woman, grab a hold of it and thank the universe you've got it. Please welcome Karina.
Well, that didn't make me cry. Note to self, don't have a song right before you have to speak. Thank you all for coming today. I didn't realize the room had filled up, and I'm really happy to see that. I'm probably just going to read this because I don't think I'll get through it if I don't. Okay. I added to this morning because when I woke up, I texted my brother right here and asked him to run an errand for me, and I said, I'm just going to stay in bed for a little longer. I just need to rest before today. And as happens in the quiet moments when you're grieving, because that's when I grieve, I started getting teary, like now. And I heard, be joyful. And I felt him take my hand, just like he would if he was lying in bed next to me. Yes, be joyful. Be joyful that we got to love Jeffrey Joseph Morin. I always knew I would be doing this. I always knew I would be eulogizing Jeffrey. I went into this relationship with full disclosure. As Claudia said, the man's got a song, a whole damn album called Don't Get to Know Me, because I might die, right before your eyes. Kind of prophetic, or pathetic. So I went in with my eyes wide open. I'd even heard the statistics, Grim Reaper 0, Jeffrey Joe 7. So why would I do this to myself? All things considered, turns out to be the best decision of my life. Jeff and I had plans. Getting him settled in, finishing my master's, of which he was my #1 supporter, driving Daisy May, visiting the kids, traveling the country, reaping the rewards of being patient and trusting that we had time. We're very excited about what was coming next for us. Our last night, as he drifted into sleep, he asked, "We still doing the commitment ceremony?" "You bet." "Absolutely. I love you so much." I'm so relieved that he knew how much I wanted to celebrate our love. Ceremony or not, we're as committed as two people ever were. A bonded pair, like in, dogs, they're a bonded pair. Jeffrey and I were a bonded pair. Jeffrey and I met in a meet cute on a rock in Crest. We love to share that we met in the line to the porta potty. I remarked about his music. We chatted on that hill for about 10 minutes or so. Later he shared that he knew right then I was going to be the most important person in his life for the rest of his life. He became my best escort, accompanying me to events around town with his ever enthusiastic, "I can't wait for you to meet Gregory Page. I can't wait for you to meet Claudia Russell. I can't wait for you to meet every single one of you." He was so excited to bring me into his world. "Can't wait for you to meet my family." We sat in his car many nights, talking and laughing for hours. He told me of Joe and Ginny, and Grandpas Lars and Nappy. We talked about growing up a Navy brat and never being able to make friends. He described his siblings as a passel of puppies and his children as brilliant. He told me stories from Vietnam he had never shared, of thoughts he'd pushed deep down. He shared his music and his wisdom, and in those nights, we became the sweetest, dear friends. Jeffrey thought most about how to be a better person. He had his own compass with love pointing north, guiding every word, every action. The first time I saw his picture, which he called Miss Fong, which is the picture of him in Vietnam holding the little girl, I raved about it. I asked him once if he still felt like that Jeffrey. Not really sure what that might have meant to him. And this was weird. We talked and typed all day. He replied that the answer to the question was too evocative to type, but he followed with, "I feel like him in that I take responsibility and gratitude into every event along my timeline." He did that, meaning his younger self. I told him then, and I repeat it now, that Jeffrey Joe Moran was the most accountable human I had ever met. What young man carries with him responsibility and gratitude into every event along his timeline? Who ponders that at 21? Jeffrey was not perfect, nor did he strive to be. Jeffrey strived to be himself, his most authentic self, guided by his North Star, a deep, relentless love for his fellow man. Jeffrey was deeply human. If he loved you long enough, it was almost guaranteed that you'd have a serious argument with him. His friend and producer Jeff Berkeley wrote, JJ felt deeply, in love, sadness, and anger, no holds barred, no punches pulled, heart on his sleeve, and there to love you through thick and thin. His philosopher's life had impact. He taught us to be better, more authentic people. In one another, we found our best friend who had our back and elevated us, challenged us. Jeffrey and I made each other better, stronger, more compassionate people. He emboldened us for whatever our journey lie ahead. Our friendship gave me strength to forgive and love my ex-husband, and my love gave him the strength to love and care for Andy. When he said, "Love never dies," I not only understood, I became. One night, this June, as he was drifting off to sleep, he muttered, "I love you, Andrea." Love never dies. It never took anything from me for him to love others. From his gaggle of girlfriends and his kitchen table compadres, he loved. Jeffrey and I were in contact every day, all day. As with most couples, much of it was inconsequential chit-chat. But he recently wrote to me, "I love you with all that I have. I will spend the rest of my life in your tender care and guided by your towering wisdom. Whatever becomes of us, it will be good and great and real and love." Nothing about us was ever about perfect timing. Not a second of our time together was easy, but every second was real, most joyful, all grateful. We were soulmates who had lost each other for most of this lifetime. We were the flash of a burning star. Love never dies. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
We're going to watch a couple of videos that our good friend Joe Rathburn is going to run for us. And then I would like everyone to join us as we have invited the Euphoria Brass Band here today to give Jeffrey a proper jazz funeral march as he moves on his way. So after these videos, we'll be joining the band, and I invite you to celebrate this life that we were all touched by. I want to say a special thank you to Jeffrey's family and Karina's family. Thank you, Karina, for honoring me by letting me be a part of this today. To Jeffrey's siblings, Liz, Mary Jo, Dana, Danny, Joey. What a wonderful brother. And thank you so much for being part of the life that made him who he was for each of us to enjoy. Rosie and Michael, I send you with peace to your hearts and joy as you move forward, as Jeffrey did, with all of the hard things that went through his life. He looked through eyes of love, and his love always shone on you. He loved you, Rosie, so much, and Michael loved you and appreciated you so much. And to Griffin and Karina, final additions to Jeffrey's family. You touched his heart in many ways and gave him a chance to grow, even as late as it was in his lifetime. And I send you with peace to your hearts and with love to each of you.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow so pretty in the sky also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands. How do you do? They're really saying I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world. Colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do? They're really saying I love you. I hear babies cry, watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I'd work for you, I'd slave for you, I'd be a beggar or a knave for you. If that isn't love, it'll have to do. Until the real thing comes along. I'd gladly move the earth for you, to prove my love and its worth to you. If that isn't love, it'll have to do. Until the real thing comes along. With all the words, dear, at my command, I just can't make you understand. I'll always love you, come what may. My heart is yours. What more can I say? I'd sigh for you, I'd cry for you, I'd tear the stars down from the sky for you. If that isn't love, it'll have to do. Until the real thing comes along. sigh for you, I'd cry for you, I'd tear the stars down from the sky for you. If that isn't love, it'll have to do until the real thing comes along. With all the words at my command, I just can't make you understand. I'll always love you, come what may. My heart is yours, what more can I say? I'd work for you, I'd slave for you, I'd be a beggar or a knave for you. If that isn't love, it'll have to do until the real thing comes along. If that isn't love, it'll have to do until the real thing comes along.
As you know, Jeffrey Joe Moran
send us out to the memory of Jeffrey Joe, whom I did not know, but understand that he was an amazing musician and an even more amazing human being. So in honor of the tribute and the celebration of his life, I'd like to share this song with you that talks about life and that journey. It's a song I'm very proud of, and particularly proud of to be asked to play this. It's called Standing Ovation.
If life is a comedy, the part that we play is never as clear as it could be. Or maybe it's wrong, who is to say? But it always turns out as it should be. And if I am the player who's played his part well, and did it with humor and grace, when I die, give me a standing ovation, a celebration, or a job with all unnoted crime. It's not my final destination. I'll be at the station when the train comes by. You write your own story as the pages unfold, but you're never quite sure of the end. Maybe it's destiny, maybe it's choice, maybe we're all just pretending. In a tale of a lifetime, it all comes around, and you only receive what you send. But when I die, give me a standing ovation, a celebration, or a job well done. unknown yet far. It's not my final destination. I'll be at the station when the train comes by. Some have it easy, some have it all. Some work so hard for so long. We sink to the bottom and we rise to the top, but mostly wind up in the middle. The more we are different, the more we're the same. I'm just one moment's work through here. When I die, give me a standing ovation, a celebration for a job well done. No need to cry. It's not my final destination. I'll be at the station when the train comes by. When I die, give me a standing ovation, a celebration for a job well done. No need to cry. Don't you? It's not my final destination. I'll be at the station when the train comes by. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Ooh.
cheap. I mean, I bought it as an investment. I don't give it Jeff and say, hey, I got this guitar. You can take it and play it all you want. And I go, but I get it back when you go.
Was that the famous
So I
guitar
got it
in
back.
the picture?
That's a little piece of history of that guitar. I didn't know. I mean, I can't play it, so you're welcome to come over and play it anytime you want. It'll probably be hanging all at my house.
Danny,
What?
was that the famous ES335 that's in the picture of like Steph?
Yeah, that guitar right there. Yeah, I bought it from a guy in IB that I've known, grew up there. So a guy that I grew up knowing since little league said, I got this guitar and I need some money, and I got a good deal.
The guitar inspired me to play more. The guitar company that I got sponsored by is the original Gibson. So it's the original old luthiers that built that guitar. So I ended up meeting so many old guys that actually taught me to build that
Yeah,
guitar.
I think it was over 67.
It took me all the way to the core.
There you go. Well, I'm glad. It hit me pretty hard when I saw it. I just saw it as cool, and I'll take it. I ran to the bank, took the money out, and bought it. I think I paid $850 for it. Probably worth about 3 or 4 times that amount. But I just wanted to tell a joke that Jeff, it's a corny joke, but Jeff is the king of the corny jokes, and I liked hearing it. And there goes the doctor. He says, Doctor, I can't stop singing Western Pussycat. Doctor goes, wow, I think you got a case of the Tom Joneses. Guy goes, wow, is that common? Doctor goes, it's not unusual. Jeff told me that many years ago, and that's my favorite joke of all time. It's a funny joke. But, he's, I didn't, when I'd see him, he'd go to I'd go out to, I don't remember some of the places he played, but he'd just say, hey, call up, and, I'd never plan ahead on anything. He'd just say, okay, he'd call me, well, I'm here, and I'm playing right now, why don't you come up? I'm in Colorado. He didn't think ahead very much. But, I just wanted to pass the joke along. I figured since I was up here, maybe I could say something else.
Sing.
Yeah, sing what? My problem is I can't remember the words. If they were right here, I'd probably do it, but I'm not smart enough to make my phone work. That's why they call them smartphones, because they're smarter than we are. But thank you all for coming out. I could stay here all day and listen to stories of my brother, but I'm going to go home and drink some whiskey. So, maybe we'll see you around the hood, Thank you.
There are still some Hawaiian shirts hanging up, and I would like anyone who wants to take one to take one. Joe had another idea, which if there's some left over, we'll donate them to the Parrot Head Society. But those Hawaiian shirts are so quintessentially Jeffrey, and I know that people want to take a little bit of him with them, and so please do. If you don't fit a 3X or 2X, you can make a pillow out of it, or a teddy bear, or belt it. The last thing that I want to say is just thank you for being here, and thank you for loving us. I'm so blessed by what he brought into my life. All of these faces, all of these people, and all the ones that have left. So incredibly blessed to have all of you in my life, and I'm so grateful that we got some time to bring Jeffrey into my family and my life, and for them to get to know him. And that's it. Let's put the chairs back, clean up, and if you want to take some food, take some food.
Want to go to the beach and drink some whiskey?
If you want to come to my house, that's an option too.
What's the deal?